A human could breathe in Palaven. It's based off oxygen and carbon, but it's also built of dextro amino acids. And I think you guys have heard a lot about this when it comes to Turians, the whole dextro DNA. They mention this a lot in the game, like when you're gonna drink an alcohol or something like that. Like a Turian will say, this is for dextro DNAs or whatever, and he's like, this will like burn your insides or whatever. So the only other species that is based off dextro amino acids are the Quarians. Say you're a Turian, if you were to eat any food, like say human food, if you were to eat anything that humans, Solarians, or anything like that, or Asari eat, a lot of people think that it's always poisonous, but it's not always poisonous. It could just be that you're not going to be able to get any nutrient from it. That's basically what usually happens, that you don't get nutrients from it. But at worst, you will get poisoned and it could even kill you. So that's why it's like a deterrent. It's like, say, don't eat any foods that are for Turians or Quarians. And the same goes for the Turians and the Quarians. Don't eat any food that's for Solarians or humans or Asari and stuff like that. This is another reason why some people think that if you were to mate with a Turian, that you could have a baby. Like, say you're a human. If you're a human and you mate with a Turian, that you could have a baby by that Turian. But you can't. The species are so different that you just can't have a baby with these different species. And especially because of the dextro DNA. It would be a poisonous environment if you were to have a baby. So you can't have, if you're a human, humans cannot have babies with any other species but the Asari. And the Asari could have babies, could get pregnant by a Turian or by a Krogan, by any other species. The Asari is the only exception. Because of their biology. They basically just need to take a few pieces from the other species' DNA to put it together, but basically they do all the work, the Asari. So they're the only exception. But humans can't have babies with Turians, so yeah, if you guys thought that romancing Garrus will maybe get you a little Garrus human baby, no. It's not going to happen. Another thing that maybe a lot of people missed is on Mass Effect, and first Mass Effect, there was this Turian mechanic on Noveria. I think his name was Lilihirix or something like that. He was the mechanic on Noveria. He says if you could polish enough gizzard, and some people take this like a sign or like a clue saying that Turians have gizzards, that their digestive system works like birds' digestive system. And what that is, it's a muscle in the stomach that birds have that does the digestion, but sometimes you need like a grit to dissolve food and stuff like that. Like, so sometimes birds will eat like rocks and stuff and hard stuff like that so that it could grind the food. So it's possible that Turians have a gizzard as well, so they probably eat rocks. So if you ever find a Turian eating rocks, it's totally normal for them. So the face paint that Turians wear, it resembles their colony of origin. And the way that this whole face paint started, and the reason why it started, was all because of the Unification War. And what this was, it was a civil war between the Turians. This was way back when the Asari and the Solarians were barely getting a hang of the Citadel, or the Council. So this was a long time ago. The Turian colonies were led by chieftains. So like, you know, you're the head honcho in each colony. And these chieftains basically separated themselves from the hierarchy. And the hierarchy is the Turian government. That's what it's called. So there was this whole like hostility thing going on. So when they distanced themselves, they became very like secluded, like on their own. And they didn't like, and even xenophobic, they didn't like outsiders coming in to their colony. So that's where the whole face paint came in, because there was just so much hostility that you had to wear this paint that represented your colony, kind of like gangs, I guess. Where if you didn't have like a certain, let's say gang tattoos, if a certain gang sees you with this one tattoo, they're like, oh, okay, they're cool, but or else they'll say, oh, they're our enemies, kill them. That's kind of like with the face paint for Turians were represented. It was, I'm part of this colony, or I'm part of this colony. You don't have to kill me. We're friends, and that type of thing. So it was to separate who was the enemy and who wasn't in a certain colony. War broke out between the colonies. The hierarchy basically just like said, you guys go ahead and duke it out. We're not gonna jump into this. But after so many years of fighting and so many factions got destroyed, and there was a few left at the end. The hierarchy was finally intervened. They were finally like, you know what? Okay, this is it. That's it. By this time, the chieftains from the colonies were already way too weak. Like they had fought for so long that when it finally was coming to an end, they were just weak. They couldn't fight anymore. That they were just like, fine, and they just joined the hierarchy again. So they had rebelled in the first place, but now they were just like, whatever. This is not going anywhere. So let's just go back to how we were. So even though peace came after that, there was still like there were still tensions between the colonies. So that's why the Turians just kept the face paint. But it's unknown which face paint represents which colony. Sometimes they're white, sometimes they're blue. They have different designs. There are Turians that are called barefaced, and those are Turians that don't have any face paint. The term barefaced is basically somebody that is not to be trusted. Like you can't know much about this person. So they're just like, or it's also like a slang term for a politician. So like I said, the Turians are most known for their sense of public service. They're even though they are all individuals, they still work in a group. They never put their well-being or their needs before the groups. And it doesn't matter what group they're in. It doesn't matter what group they're part of. If they're part, especially when they're in their own race, like among Turians. But even if they're not among Turians, even if they're like, say, a group within like a human team or something like that, they still will give their life for that team. So whoever they're giving service to, that they will give themselves 100%. And they're a highly disciplined race, and I love this about the Turians. They're some people actually see them as almost imperialistic, but others just see them as being very respectable and chivalrous because of their public service, and they're so disciplined. They never cower in any situation. They never back away from a battle or anything like that. And the ones that do, you're basically like excommunicated from freaking being a Turian. So by the time that a Turian is from when they turn 15, from 15 to 30, they are already giving some kind of service to the state. So at age 15, boot camp starts. You're already like in the freaking military at 15. And if you're wondering about Turian lifespans, like how do they vary? They're similar to humans. They're basically like human lifespans. So when a Turian is 15, it's like a human 15-year-old. So they go through this intense training until they're capable of joining a unit. And once they turn 30, they could join the reserves. I guess, higher. As much as people think that the Turian race is very violent because of their militaristic background, people think that they're violent, but they're not. They're the opposite, actually. They're because of their discipline. They don't just go and freaking kill everybody. They do what is needed. They don't go and pick fights. But if someone picks a fight on with them, they will defend themselves. They will do what is needed to put a stop to a threat. And not just a threat to them, but a threat to the galaxy. So they don't believe in skirmishes or small-scale battles. It's all total war. They will end it, whether it's them all dying or them putting a complete end to that, like the genophage with the Krogans. They use massive fleets to outnumber their enemies. And if you're wondering about the fleets in the galaxy, the Turians are the ones with the most dreadnoughts. And what grants them this is a treaty that is called Treaty of Ferrixin. And this treaty basically states that the Turians could have more dreadnoughts than any of the other races. And there's a ratio. It's a 5 to 3 to 1. What it means is that for every 5 dreadnoughts that the Turians build, the Asari and the Solarians could build 3, and the rest of the council races could build 1. So that includes the humans. The humans could only have 1 dreadnought for every 5 dreadnought ships that the Turian has. In Mass Effect 2, if the council was killed in Mass Effect 1, you could hear like this news report saying that the Turians actually want to increase the dreadnoughts because of the loss of the Destiny Ascension, the dreadnought that the council was on in Mass Effect 1. Because of the loss, if it was destroyed in Mass Effect 1, the Turians want to increase their dreadnought capacity more than just 5 to replenish that loss. If the council survived, the Alliance or the humans were given a seat on the council, which ups them to the 3 dreadnoughts, like the Solarians and the Sari. The Solarians and the Sari get 3 dreadnoughts because they are 2 of the races on the council. An interesting thing is the involvement with the Volus. The Volus have a really close relationship with the Turians, since the Turians are basically public servants. They live to serve, whether it's in the military, in political arenas, or anything like that. They're not great at business. They're not very good at economy or anything like that. They don't have like these booming businesses. So it's like, well, how is their economy? How's their economy even survive? And it's because of the Volus. The Volus are very smart when it comes to like entrepreneurship. So the Turians actually hired the Volus as their entrepreneurs, and the Volus are the ones that create like business for the Turians, because the Turians aren't good at it. And what the Volus get out of it is protection from the Turians. The Turian military is the center of Turian society. Like, military is everywhere. It's like a public works organization. The military engineers maintain spaceports, schools, the water facilities. So a lot of races see the Turians as a race that gets the job done. So whenever someone wants something done efficiently and 100%, they usually look at the Turians for this. Another thing about the Turian personality is that they're extremely honest. The worst thing that a Turian could do is not fess up to something that they did. Even if they freaking killed someone or stole something, even if it meant that they were going to go to jail, they'll try to prevent being caught. But if they do get caught, they won't lie, and they won't say, "Oh, I didn't do it." They will fess up. They'll admit it, because it's the Turian pride, what they're most known for. The Turian economy is much higher than that of the humans, but it's nowhere near the Asaris. The Asari is just, you could tell with their architecture. Like on Ilium, you could tell that their economy is booming because of their architecture. But the Turians, they have a very specific architecture, and it's pretty easy to spot Turian architecture. It's very angular. It's very geometric, sharp lines that come to points like 90 degrees, and sharp points. If you look at their ships, they're very pointy and like very sharp, and their buildings look the same way. So if you know how to spot Turian architecture, you could. When I was looking at some images for Mass Effect 3, I was like, that looks like it could be on Palaven, just because of the architecture, just because of the sharp angles that are in the walls and stuff like that. And I was like, that looks like it's probably Palaven. And a lot of this architecture is actually based off the way the Turian looks. The crest, if you look at the Turian ships, it's almost like a replica of the Turian crest. That sharp look with the different points going out. It's similar to that. The only place we've seen Palaven was also on the Evolution comic, the one with the elusive man. The interesting thing about the Turian government, or the hierarchy as it's called, is that it's based off tiers. What I mean by that is like there's sections. They're called citizenship tiers, and there's 27. The lowest, the beginning is the civilians. Like these are your children and what's called client races, like the Volus. The next tier, the second tier, is the military. You get formal citizenship at the third tier, and this is after boot camp, so this is like after you're 15, like I don't know, maybe 17 or something like that. So after 15 years old. So it's a system that could be misused, it could be abused, but because the Turians are such a honest and disciplined race, they respect each of the expectations of each tier. So it's not like people rebel, except for like the unification wars. But after that, everybody just knows what they're supposed to do, and it's just the honest thing to do. And they're Turians. They're loyal. It's their service. So just like a Turian could go up the tiers, they could also be demoted. They could also go down. And it's not so much because they do something bad that they're demoted. It's more because of the people that promote this certain citizen. Let's say like their superior promotes them to a higher tier, and then they find out that they're not ready for that tier, they demote them back down, and they're like, when you're ready, we'll promote you again. So it's not about ambition, it's not about going up the tiers, it's just about you being able to do what you're supposed to do, like you're knowing your limitations and being content in that area. So you don't have like freaking hoodlum Turians wandering about, causing chaos. But like, let's say I was reading that recreational drug use isn't against the law, but if this recreational drug use, if a Turian is using drugs and it affects their service, if it affects their job, then that's when their superiors come into play. And it's not like they freaking go to court and all this. It's almost like an intervention, where you have like their superiors and members of their family and stuff like that trying to tell them to stop doing this, or this is bad, or this is wrong, and stuff like that. So it's like an intervention. But if it doesn't work, if the Turian still keeps doing the same thing, then their superiors put them on like the strict life of hard labor.